You ready, Mr. Palumbo? Yep. 7:31, if we could all rise for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could have a moment of silence to remember the services and sacrifices of the armed service members who protect our nations and the first responders who protect our neighborhoods. This meeting was advertised in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10:4-6. Notice was, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to do the roll call. Clerk, please do the roll.
Councilmember Quinn?
Here.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Here.
Councilmember Judnak?
Here.
Councilmember Palumbo?
Here.
Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Sackett?
Here.
Councilmember Jackson?
Here.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Here.
President Kelly?
Here. I apologize for that. Again, this meeting was advertised in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10:4-6. Notice was published in the Township's official newspapers, the Daily Record, on November 21st, 2018. Oops.
Yeah, you're reading from the wrong one. January 11th.
Sorry. January 11th, 2019, notice was posted on the official bulletin boards of Rockaway Township. 6 is the designation of Sergeant at Arms. Township Code 2-5.15, decorum. While the council is in session, the members shall preserve order and decorum. The council president, at his or her discretion, shall direct the chief of police or such other person in the police department as he may designate to be the sergeant of arms at the council meeting. The sergeant of arms shall employ reasonable means to maintain the proper order and decorum consistent with accepted standards. I see the chief's not here. I do see Officer Matos. Will you be the sergeant of arms?
Yes, sir.
And again, thank you for your service in the military.
Thank you, sir.
Just don't remove anything.
At this time, we have 7, which would be open to the public. And before we go into the open to the public, depending on how many people had signed in, we do have the 5th grade girls Rockets basketball team to do a proclamation. And when they come in, I was going to pause whatever we're doing to allow for the proclamation to take place. So if it's a short open to the public, I think we can finish through, but if it's going to be a lengthy one, I would then just pause it for that proclamation for those girls so they can go back to, home and get ready for bed and go to school tomorrow. So I just want to make everybody aware of that now moving forward. And that was requested from our administration. So thanks, Steve, on that. Just let me know when that does happen.
Thank you.
So at this particular time, I have Mr. Press. Come on, Mr. Press.
Dave Press, 71 Oakland Avenue. Let's talk about something from 2 meetings ago, because I wasn't here at the last meeting, fortunately. Mr. Kelly, before the start of the March 12th meeting, you approached me, told me I'm wrong to make the comments I make during the public portions of council meetings. You insisted I was attacking Ms. Clipperton. I then reminded you I never once mentioned her by name. I never said anything about her hair, about the color of her hair, about her job, or anything else about her. I simply asked where I can get one of those $70,000 jobs. But because you've never been one to let truth get in the way of what you want, you ignored what I was saying to you and what I had said that night. Then you threatened me by saying you contacted my employer and showed them videos of my comments at council meetings. You're not going to shut me up by threatening me like you have threatened and continue to threaten so many other people in Rockaway Township. Who the hell do you think you are? Who the hell do you think you are to threaten my livelihood? That's a new low, even for you. You talked about how you didn't do anything when I wronged you. In case anyone who's present here tonight or is watching this meeting's video doesn't know about this, I quote-unquote wronged you because I told the truth about what you did in Mike Thatchison. Some people may ask how I know this. It's because you called me to brag that you had licked his face.
What is he talking about?
No matter the number of decades I've been involved in politics and the number of campaigns in which I've been involved, whether for my candidacy or that of someone else, it never ceases to amaze me, excuse me, how people always say that what I did got you elected. It's never the actions, activities of the candidate or of any member of that candidate's campaign that had any positive effect. You also said to me you were responsible for me being involved. You made me because you got me elected. You didn't donate any money to my campaign. You didn't introduce me to anyone in town. You didn't walk the streets of our wonderful town with me. You did put out your own mailer, which I got blamed for. You did put up some crude plywood signs. You didn't want me to win as much as you wanted Max Rogers to lose. If Alfred E. Newman ran instead of me, you would have wanted him to beat Max Rogers. Just another vendetta. Just generally, you know what they say, you throw enough crap, some of it's bound to stick. I'm not looking at you while I speak to you because you're sick of me. Your attitude, I'm better than any of you approach, the way you treat other people. If you didn't spend so much time being a bully and threatening people, you might actually have time to do something positive. When I was first elected to this formerly august body, you and I had a positive relationship. You fooled me then, but that changed long ago. I now know you as the cruel, antagonistic person that you are. One day your actions will come back and bite you on the ass.
Thank you, Mr. Press. Mr. Dio?
Patrick Dio, 11 Valley Road. I want to commend President Kelly and the council for having 4 public budget meetings with an objective of working with the administration to adopt a budget with no increase in expenditures or increase in the municipal tax assessment. I therefore urge the council not to approve Ordinance 01909 to exceed the statutory cap of 2.5%. I have also concerns with the capital improvement plan. As of December 31, 2018, our bond debt is well over $16 million, not counting another $3.3 million water sewer authority bonds. To pay down the bond debt requires $2 million on average over the next 8 years. We also contribute approximately $1 million to the public employees retirement system every year towards an unfunded liability of approximately $30 million. And we contribute $1.7 million on average every year to the police fireman retirement system towards an unfunded liability of approximately $36 million. Now, these liabilities are beyond our control, other than staffing and the salaries we pay. Selling bonds is within our control. Controlling operating costs is within our control. Do we really need to spend $500,000 on Peterson Field during this time of austerity, including $400,000 for an outdoor basketball court? Do we need to saddle the township with another $1.4 million in bond debt, plus interest? From attending all of the 4 budget meetings, I also recall members of the council voting to delete items from the plan that was presented in Ordinance 01911. I therefore urge the council to not approve the ordinance to adopt the capital improvement plan, Ordinance 01911. Perhaps we too can be debt-free in the near future like some of our neighbors. I also, outside the area of the budget, I'd like to ask, what is the status, besides the fact that it's still under investigation, which we hear all the time, what's the status of the Bowlbyville situation? What's the status of the missing, Mayor Datchison's missing computers and cell phone investigation? And what's the status of the investigation of what caused the hacking of the police department computers. I think the community deserves some type of a status report, recognizing that some things can't be disclosed, besides just saying under investigation. Who's doing the investigation? Has the investigation been turned over to the prosecutor's office? Is the investigation being done internally? I think that we deserve some type of a report as to these 3 items. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone from administration that may want to just address that real quick?
Mr. Dio, as far as the investigations, it's a multi-pronged investigation. There's multiple law enforcement agencies involved in all of the things that you mentioned. It would be irresponsible and reckless for me to comment on them. I wish I could say more. It's a police matter, and that's the way it's that's the way it's always handled, so we don't compromise anything. So I wish I could say more, and I appreciate your comments. And that's where it's at.
You know, an estimated time frame?
The law enforcement doesn't give us an estimated time frame. I sit in the mayor's position, and I have limited knowledge of what goes on in the police department in terms of investigations. It's not what I'm not allowed to know or run the day-to-day operations of the police department or actually get my hands involved in that. It's statutorily improper, so it is in the hands of law enforcement.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, real quick on the police matters that are there. The Bowlbyville is not a police matter. Could you address that to Mr. Dio?
I'm going to address that under new business.
Oh, good.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, I got Mrs. Coleman.
Hi guys, Emily Coleman, 18 Lakeshore Drive. I said this last meeting, but if anybody wasn't here, I just wanted to let you guys know that the 2020 census is hiring, so if you're interested in a part-time temporary job with the 2020 census, please go to 2020census.gov/jobs and apply for a job. So we're just starting to ramp up our hiring, so it's a great time to apply.
Could you say it one more time, the website?
It's 2020census.gov/jobs. And there's all different types of jobs available. There's anything from clerks to managers. And then there's gonna be 2 part-time operations, one happening in the summer, which will be like checking addresses for the census. And then after the census goes out, we'll have people going out for non-responders. So that's another job that you could get. So it would really help me out if you guys would apply, because I'm the recruiting manager for Morris County.
Council President, can I?
Mrs. Coleman, the Vice President has a question for you.
I just want to ask administration, have you, can we put that on our website for our town?
Gives me that flyer, sure.
Why don't we put that on the Rockaway Township website so that more people that maybe are perusing the website can see it?
Put it on Facebook.
Facebook would be probably more appropriate.
Yeah, Facebook. The Rockaway Township Facebook.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Mrs. Degman, come on up. I got a question for you, too.
Pat Degnan, 88 Valley View Drive. What I'd like to do is ask all those who are running for public office to join White Meadow Lake at their Meet the Candidates Night on Monday evening, May 20th, from 7 to 9 p.m. You will get a formal invitation also, but I just wanted to make the announcement here so that you can put it on your calendars, and then as soon as you get my letter, you'll be able to respond to us. We're trying to open it up to as many people as possible. We're trying to be, it's run by the Civic Affairs Committee in White Meadow Lake, but it's open to all residents. Where's the At the clubhouse in White Meadow Lake.
Ms. Degnan, I have a quick question for you. Last year, before going into the Memorial Day holiday that we were having, Mr. Gable, is there a chance maybe we can reach out to him again to see if maybe his schedule would allow for him to speak during our parade? I mean, he does a really wonderful job for White Meadow Lake, but what he says in his speech that he does every year.
On Memorial Day.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy speech that I think a lot of people would enjoy.
Okay,
And
I will reach out to him.
Yeah, last year it wasn't within his schedule. And I encourage everybody every single time, because it's his voice and the way that he narrates everything. It's almost, you can see each shoulder talking through.
What is the date of that?
The date of, I'm not positive right now.
The Memorial Day Parade this year is being run in conjunction with the borough in Denville as well. And
It's not gonna be.
Yeah, it's not going to be like it was last year.
Well, we're not even having him at the end of the gazebo, but just a part of it was something that he could.
So I think we'd have to probably talk to the borough.
Can I interject for a second?
Sure.
The parade it's a celebration by for the 150th anniversary of, what they're trying to do is the parade committee is comprised of Denville, Rockaway Township, Rockaway Borough, and the original route was held where they've marched, because we were one town back in 150 years ago, was in Rockaway Township. In Rockaway Borough, they marched a certain route. So the parade is going to take a different route this year in honor of that 150th event. So you would have to reach out. You can reach out to the parade committee. I'll find out for you who on that committee would be able to authorize that or get Mr. Gable in, and I'll get back to Ms. Degnan.
Yeah, if you could just CC me on that.
Absolutely.
I don't know, have you ever seen his speech?
I have not, no.
I mean, it is,
Yeah.
You would enjoy it. I think everybody there.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about it numerous
Yeah,
times.
it's a real good thing, so.
We do that on Memorial Day, the Monday of Memorial Day. It's at 6
Sunrise,
a.m.
Yeah,
We do a sunrise
and
service.
it's 6 a.m., it's sharp.
And it's 6 a.m., believe me, and then we serve you breakfast, so anybody is welcome to that.
It's a combination of the towns this year in honor of that.
May 27th.
When is it?
May 27th.
May 27th. But I'll reach out to Ms. Degnan, and I'll get her that information.
In the meantime, I'll contact him to see if he's available should it be opened.
Yeah, no, that was just, if we have to bribe them, because it's definitely worth it, that's for sure. Thank you. Next we got Mrs. Platts. This one's gonna be good. 748.
Hi, good evening. Katie Platts, 2 Valhalla Way. I'm here to beat the drum about the athletic facilities in this town. I'm here over and over about this, but I was very disappointed to see that the council sort of kicked the can on the Peterson improvements. And I understand the idea to, instead of making a repair to and a significant improvement to our basketball courts, to theoretically put it into a gigantic one-time full improvement. But I think we all know what will happen, and what will likely happen, and just look at the statement that was made before. There was an objection to just even like an almost $400,000 investment. A full investment is going to be millions of dollars because of the state of our facilities. It's going to be voted down, and my concern is that that's why the can was kicked, because last year there was a similar application or submission by Mayor Datchison to the same improvements, and that was stripped. So this year instead, it was sent down the way so that theoretically members of this body could say, we didn't strip it, we suggested that we put it all together in a big fancy bow and make a big improvement. The fact is, it's going to be rejected. The reality of this municipality is that right now we don't even have tennis courts. Our tennis courts last year, at the direction of Councilwoman Abramson, were evaluated and determined to be literally unfit for use, unsafe. And since that day, this body has not made it any suggestion or done anything in order to make any repairs. They sit there shuttered. If kids in our town want to play tennis, hopefully, maybe they can use the high school courts, but if they're being used, they have no opportunity. That's unacceptable to me. I have kids in this town that participate in sports, and we love it. We have great programs. We have wonderful people that have dedicated, volunteered, and we have terrible fields. Our soccer fields, we don't have enough. So although there's people that work really hard in this town to keep them up, there's literally not enough. You need to let soccer fields sit in order to improve. We don't have enough to sit, so the quality is awful. Basketball, we rely on the Board of Education. We don't have a single town basketball court, and Ray Furman does such a fantastic job with that. So do our travel coaches, but we don't have a facility. We don't have a main facility. So overall, my kids are involved in sports, and I really love it. My kids are so dedicated to it, but this body for that last year and this year have failed to make any investments in the infrastructure, and it's really needed. If you go around, I understand that maybe apart from Councilman Sackett and Councilman Jackson, that there may not be members here whose children play, but if you go around to, when I travel the state, and I travel the state, other municipalities and our surrounding communities have incredibly better facilities than we offer. And whether you care about sports or not, that's property value. People do come to a municipality and look at it and say, look, where are my kids going to play? I mean, the idea that if they went out to Peterson and said, where can I play tennis? And the answer is, they're not even safe, they've been shuttered for a year, that's unacceptable. So I would respectfully request that you all reconsider that decision and at least think, and last year, by the way, Councilman Jeniak, who's not here, said, you know what, to Mayor Datchison, I want a plan. Give me a plan, that's why I'm rejecting it. Well, this year, Mayor Puzio made that effort, got a plan, got a full plan, got all the specs, all the numbers, and the fact is you could say, look, maybe we don't want this, maybe we don't want that, maybe it's too much, I get that. But the idea that the answer is to just kick it down the road is unacceptable when Mayor Puzio went out and did exactly what was asked. So I understand that you may not have kids and you might not care, but a lot of people in this town care. So I would respectfully request that you reconsider that, because I'll be here every meeting to argue for our kids. It's a major problem in this town. And then just the only other thing I wanted to say is that since the last meeting, there's been another judicial finding. The council president has made an incorrect decision in regards to a legal issue, granting counsel to the clerk. There has been a decision by, again, Judge Minkowitz, who determined that that was an improper use of this body's function, and instead it was an executive function. So please just respect our attorneys, despite what you think or what your personal history is with them. They do a fantastic job in our experience. Thank you.
Mrs. Platt, if I may?
If you would start, yes.
If I may, just a couple of things. I would love to respond on the last comment that you made. Unfortunately, we're still in court with that, and as far as the challenging of that position on there, it would be a little premature because the matter hasn't been resolved and disposed of and adjudicated.
It was by the court in
It wasn't.
County.
And so unfortunately, it's dealing with an Oprah case, and it was an ancillary thing that was added onto it. So I'm trying to do an injunctive release from that to do an appeal. That's not taking place at the moment. But again, since we're still in litigation on that matter, that's not something that I'm going to address.
Everybody can read the order. Judge Minkowitz issued a decision, and that has been adjudicated.
Exactly, but it still does not allow one to appeal because the matter is still continuing. That was not the issue. Okay. It was an Oprah issue, and I'm sure you're aware of it. The other thing is that on September 30th of 2016, there was a request going out to K&K. It's Kellen Kirkpatrick that was creating a plan. I know you're not aware of it. You probably haven't seen it.
No, but I was here last year and this year, and I understand it wasn't approved.
And then on that...
I'm not worried about 2016. I'm worried about now, sir.
Well, it relates to now, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
So when you have that on the September 30th of 2016 to come up with a plan, it wasn't until 2 years afterwards where we actually had a completion or portion of that plan for the basketball courts of October 18th of 2018. But we didn't receive that until just recently at a budget meeting that we had, and then it was taken back from us to review it even further. So during a budget process where we're talking about capital
Do you ever talk to the administration outside of meetings?
You at all. If you just
but I'm just asking, you always talk about the fact that you're not provided information. If you have questions, do you ever reach out to the administration outside of meetings?
Is there anybody else in the public that wishes to speak?
No problem. I think that would probably be a productive idea if what you care about is our...
I know, you just don't want to hear it though, I'm sorry.
I would like to address the insurance.
Go ahead.
One thing I'd like to address that Mrs. Platts stated up here in her creative narrative is that the insurance issue was not one that I called for insurance, okay, for them. I questioned if the courts were deemed safe. because of the money that was involved with fixing everything and not to just do a small fix. I was told they were safe. And I asked, when was the last inspection? Because obviously, we can't have them opened if they're deemed unsafe, and they've been open. They were open. Well, lo and behold, Mayor Datchison and Mr. Brewer called for an inspection after I asked that question. And that, no, I never requested them to inspect it. I asked them to present me with the current inspection, or when was it inspected? I didn't even need to see it. The next day, it was then requested an inspection and closed down.
Mrs. Platts, please.
So,
Mr. Matos, Mrs. Platts, please.
I'm addressing the audience about your comment. And that is what happened, not this whole creative narrative that was put up here, okay? That's exactly what happened. Review the minutes or the audio, and you'll hear what exactly transpired.
And nothing's been fixed.
So, Mrs. Platts, while I was saying before, there was a plan that had just been brought to us on a short basis.
We're in 2019.
Excuse me, Mrs. Platts, and it came in 2018, and we weren't provided with that until just recently in March of this year. And then it was taken back, and I even requested it to further review it before we made our decisions in our budget, and it wasn't provided. So moving forward with that, collectively, with all of us that were here during the budget process, we did discuss about a major, massive plan for the entire Peterson Field complex rather than piecework it, and we all agreed to do that. And it was something that our prior leaders in their administration also stated the same thing, that they were going to have a presentation and doing the same. So we are trying to address it in the best interest of that. The DPW, our recreation, they all do a phenomenal job in trying to address the fields. I know some of them actually addressed you in some of your comments with regard to the arrangement of the fields and the off time of the fields and the rebuilding of the fields, and even working with Mrs. Degman of the POA with some of their fields as well that we have some issues with that were of last year. So for what your statements or allegations are, that's not true. We're trying to move forward with that and do the best that we can with what we have. So I'm sorry that you have a disagreement on that, but those documents are public record. You're always welcome to receive them. If you wish, I could have them sent to you tomorrow.
I'm not worried about that.
Okay, you don't want, no, you're not coming back up, we're done. Mrs. Platts, you're done.
It's not a question and answer.
Mr. Matos, please.
I'm not worried.
It's Mrs. Platts. You sat down and you're done.
And you continue to speak
Please sit down, you are done.
I don't want documents, I just like
Mr. Matos,
to
please,
repair
thank
the
you.
fields.
Thank you, Mrs. Platts.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you, Mrs. Platts.
I just want you to do the...
I know, Mrs. Platts, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
I know the truth won't help your election.
I know, thank you.
Disruption.
Mr. Schmidt, if you wish to come up.
Oh, here we go. Mrs. Platts.
Good evening, John Schmidt,
How are you doing, Mr. Schmidt?
Gloucester City, New Jersey, County of Camden.
You gotta put it on 2 cinder blocks.
Is this better?
Thank you.
First question, does the Township of Rockaway have a nepotism policy?
Very small one.
Where, is that in code or is that in some other document? And who does that apply to?
Ms. Seeger?
It's in the policy and procedures manual. I think that's where it is. There is.
Does that govern officials here, appointed officials, employees, all groups?
I don't think it's outlined.
You can read it. I don't have it memorized, but I'll look it up.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. And, I'm probably interested, waiting probably to the next meeting for the issue of remedial action. I won't ask your, obviously, communications with your legal counsel. I'll keep it to subject matter. Obviously, you have a deadline coming up. to take remedial action, to re-vote on all resolutions and actions taken at the November 27th and December 11th meetings. Has there been a legal analysis done by this governing body as to whether each of those resolutions which are governed, some resolutions are governed by statutes, if there are any statutes which do not permit action on them? Has a legal analysis been done to date on that? That is my question. Not under OTMA, whether you can redo them under OTMA, whether you can redo them under statutes that may govern the resolutions which are going to be again before this governing body with a different number, I would assume.
We should vote on it tonight.
Council President, sounds like a question for
Mr. Yatrafano, with we are in somewhat of litigation in the order of the judge that we have currently now. Is it a question that you can answer, or is it something that we can't answer because of the current status of the judge, the ruling, the timing of appeal? We've gone on this road on other issues and other matters.
If the question is, does the issue or issues posed by Mr. Schmidt impact the...
Can you speak in the microphone, Mr. Yatrafano?
Yeah.
I can't hear him either. Can we ask you?
No.
If the question is...
Can I have Mr. Schmidt then just ask the question again?
No, I remember the question. I'm not that old.
Well, you're asking if it is.
We having a grammar lesson now?
Well,
if the question that Mr. Schmidt puts to the council, or questions as the case may be, is the legal sufficiency of the actions taken by the council, the independent legal sufficiency of the actions taken by the council at the November 27 and December 11, 2018 meetings. And the question is, does that impact on any of the pending litigation? My tentative opinion is it does not. I have not reviewed with the acting clerk the rota of what was done at either of those meetings in full, so that's the best answer and the only answer I could give you this evening.
Just so it makes that clear, just because you said something that I wasn't aware of. You haven't looked at the agenda in full for those two meetings? Is that what you just stated?
Not recently, no.
Okay. So we have no idea of what's actually on the agenda of those particular meeting dates of 11/27 of 18 and 12/11/18.
Has the council looked at the agendas for either of those meetings?
Have I? I have. I've looked at them, yes.
Well, then the statement that we have no idea would be incorrect.
Well, it was you that said that you had no idea.
Right.
That's why I had asked.
May I reclaim my time at the mic? My question was, the resolutions which you will re-vote on, there's a number of them. Are those resolutions governed by any statutes which may have a time implication? And if it does, has a legal analysis been done in regards to those laws which may govern those resolutions? And that was my question. Thank you very much.
Can we answer?
No, just like
So then perhaps we should make a motion and ask them because he said he hasn't looked at it. And he he also gave us a memo saying.
I know, that's the problem. That's the problem.
Turn your microphone off a minute.
Let's just move through to the resolutions. We can address this in the report.
Okay.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be noticed? No? With that being...
Just real quick, Mr. Schmidt, have you done a legal...
Mrs. Lucas, that's... You can address him at another point. This is if you're something to the council.
Bring it up here.
I know.
Nobody else...
I'm not going to have it...
I'd rather have him say what he's going to say now, so maybe we can nip it in the bud.
Yeah. Do you have anything to address the council other than an individual in the public? Thank you. Moving forward to the proclamation, still waiting?
We got 2 players here.
That's too bad. He's done.
Not yet.
Not yet?
We're working on it.
Okay. We're going to go over to the consent agenda.
Council President, before you do that, may I interject something for you?
No, I'm going to move forward. We can address it in the report and everything. Thank you, though.
I actually had a better answer for your question.
No, I think it's not even...
Okay, I'm sure you're not interested, so we'll...
I am interested, but we can address it in the reports. We have the consent agenda. We have resolutions R 1968. We have R 19-70. I'm going to move R 1970. I have a question on that. I'm going to make a motion to move.
You don't need to remove it.
Okay.
You just need to state that you're removing it on the record.
I'm just going to remove R 1970 for discussion. Do you have that, Manny?
I just want to go to the table. Keep talking.
To discuss the individuals in that resolution, you can't talk about them.
I know that. I know that. I'm not going to use any names. Just got to find it.
We need to approve the consent agenda. We should discuss that first.
What's that?
You should vote on the consent agenda.
Yeah, I know it's only one item, but I just wanted to have it, so. Okay, we're going to do the roll for the consent agenda.
Yeah, you just removed our 1970.
There's only 2 of them yet. I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Jednak?
Yes.
Councilmember Colombo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Just to confirm, we're only voting on R 1968. Yes.
That's correct. And 70 was removed.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. 9 yeses, 0 noes. Motion carries. Do you have this over here? Mr. Yatrapano? The R 1970. Do you have that in front of you by chance?
Yes.
What you have here on this particular resolution, you have 2 individuals on the same resolution.
Mr. Yatrapano did not put that resolution together. That's a form resolution that we've used for our registrar appointments. I just plugged in the different names. Just so you know, he didn't prepare that particular one.
Well, either way, would it be better to have a resolution for each individual rather than putting 2 individuals on one resolution?
No.
It's the same one as last year. Last year.
No, I understand that it may be the same one, but it just, I'm looking at it where you have two different positions, you have two different individuals. So if you didn't want to vote on it or abstain, you would have to abstain from the whole thing. Rather than if you have two different resolutions, you can abstain on one person but not the other, because the other may be affected through the abstention or a no vote or a yes vote. So, I mean, even though we've done it in past practices, would it be more practical to have an individual resolution for each position?
No.
Like, we don't appoint the assistant BA and the BA in one resolution or one vote.
We usually don't hire them at the same time.
And they are different positions.
Well, I'm sorry?
They are different positions.
But I'm using it as an example of having two people on one resolution. I don't... Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's two
This
people,
is
different
also
positions.
common to what the JIF does in appointing Pat and Lisa in the same action. And it would be possible for any member of the council who elects to abstain from one portion of the resolution to enter on the record a qualified abstention and the subject matter of the qualified abstention and vote for the balance of the resolution.
So one person can vote twice on this resolution?
No, I didn't say that.
So one member of this governing body can vote to abstain, but yet approve the other individual?
A member of the governing body can indicate that his vote, his or her vote, whatever that vote might be, applies to only one individual for affirmation purposes. That would mean that the vote would be automatically counted as an abstention with respect to the remaining individual.
Council President.
Councilman Jeniak?
It sounds like this resolution needs some more work before we take action on it.
We need to have a local registrar appointed by resolution. We currently do not have one because our previous local registrar is no longer with the township.
There are no registrars currently?
We do not have an appointed local registrar with the state. We need to do that by resolution.
That's correct.
So we need the locals for sure.
Yes.
So Council President, we could amend this, that if it refers to only one person, then we can have another copy of it that we make to the other person if we need to take action on both this evening.
And Mr. Giatrofano?
Just so you know, if you just did one, the other person has already been appointed by resolution, and that's still good.
But the other person's appointed as the
As a
local
deputy.
registrar, not as a deputy.
The other person that
The other individual on the resolution is appointed by that previous resolution as an alternate deputy registrar, not as a deputy registrar. But the deputy and alternate deputy are not required to be appointed by resolution. It's just the local.
So can we then just amend this for the local?
Well, she stays as the,
She'll stay as the deputy with or without this resolution.
That's correct.
Council President, I can see that.
You can amend it by motion, Council.
The locals required to be approved by resolution.
Yes.
Yes.
Statute that concerns that.
Not off the top of my head, but yes, there is.
I'm sorry, there's a statute that's referenced in the resolution itself. Does that statute?
26:8-11.
No, NJSA 26:8-11, yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Sounds better when you say it.
If only the locals required, then we should amend this to only appoint the local. And if we still want to do a resolution, we can amend another copy of this to do the deputies.
So can I just make an amendment just to remove the second whereas? And then we can either make another resolution if necessary?
Well, I don't think you need another resolution. You can certainly make an amendment make a motion to amend, subject to second and the vote of the full council of any aspect of this resolution.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because it's, it's just a concern of the two individuals being on there at once. And so I make a motion to amend it, to remove the second whereas, and just have the first whereas, the third whereas, now therefore being resolved, and I hereby certify.
Okay, I'll second.
Council President,
Yes, Mr. Junior.
I think your amendment wants to is to remove the references to a deputy registrar.
We did that.
We just did that. That would be the second whereas.
But the resolved portion also has reference to it.
Oh, it does. You're right. I'm sorry.
Just extend the motion to that as well, Council President.
Removing it all or just a section of that, Mr. Yatrafano?
Just whatever portion of it you want to delete, the reference.
Any reference to a deputy?
Yeah, so I would then...
And.
So I'm just going to read it out loud so we have this, excuse me, so everybody knows what the motion is, so we understand it. It's R-1970, resolution appointing local registrar. Whereas Christina Clipperton is a certified registrar and is qualified for the position of local registrar, having received a certification from the New Jersey Department of Health and Senior Services. Whereas pursuant to NJSA 26:8-11, ET Esquire, in those districts where there is no, Board of Health, the appointment shall be made by the governing body. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Christina Clipperton is hereby appointed as local registrar for the Township of Rockaway. The above terms will expire April 8th, 2022. I hereby certify the above to be true of a resolution adopted by the Township Council of the Township of Rockaway at a duly convened meeting held on April 9th, 2019. Does everybody understand the motion?
I understand, but I have a question. I believe we have a Board of Health? Wasn't the council was made the Board of Health, if I remember correctly, when Mr. Tabbitt had to do a certification, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So we have a Board of Health.
You are the Board.
Yes, we are the Board of Health.
Yeah, the
So
Board of
that has to come out as well.
A separate Board of Health.
Does it say separate Board of Health?
No. So we just have to add separate after no separate, right?
Mr. Yatrafano?
What's the question?
Well, Mrs. Smith just raised an issue of what we had here.
In the third whereas. In the third whereas,
It says there is no Board of Health, when in fact the council was appointed the Board of Health for the township by Mr. Tabbitt's recommendation.
But here in Rockaway Township, the council serves as the Board of Health.
Correct.
So the council has a co-joined function, okay? And it'll be proper for the council to take this action.
Okay, because when this boilerplate resolution that was done before, as Mrs. Segrad stated, we didn't have that at the time. So
there is still no independent.
Okay, just.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure it was.
It's not worded wrong. That's all.
Does everybody understand the motion? Can you please do the?
Do you have a second?
Patty seconded it.
I mean, if it's not necessary to have the deputy on a resolution, it should be
That's
done
okay,
in
we're
the
good.
proper way.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
No.
Councilmember Jedinak?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
No.
Councilmember Jackson?
Abstain.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. We got 6 yeses, 2 noes, 1 abstention.
You're not. Not all of them yet.
6 yeses, 2 noes, and 1 abstention. Motion carries. For the amendment, now we have to vote on the resolution that we amended. Make a motion to vote on R-19-70 with the amendments.
Second.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
No.
Councilmember Jedinak?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
No.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. 7 yeses, 2 noes. Motion carries.
Yeah.
Dave?
Not yet.
Oh, no, not yet.
Here comes the most important one. We got number 10, it's the mayor's appointment, and I'll leave it up to Mayor Puzio.
Just with the place and consent of the council.
I understand.
Okay.
Number 10 is a resolution confirming the appointment of our municipal judge for the Township of Rockaway. I just want to say a couple quick words about Judge Smith. Judge Smith, it was a resident in Rockaway Township for how many years, Jerry? Since 1976, and has been our municipal judge since 2007. I want to say that Jerry cares about Rockaway Township. If you were present at our budget meeting where each department or each section made their presentation, you would have seen just how passionate he is around Rockaway Township. He's done a wonderful job, and I'm recommending him for an appointment for another 3 years.
Would it be wrong for me to ask if the judge wanted to say anything? Your Honor, is there anything that you would like to say that you haven't said? I mean, you've been a staple and a pillar in the community through recreation. Well, it depends on how you got to sell yourself here, Your Honor.
Yeah, you got a point.
You got to sell yourself, Your Honor. Let's do.
I have been the judge since 2007. As you all know, I love arbitration. I've worked with St. Mary's and
Please.
Judge.
There we go.
Just pick it up. It's been a pleasure working in this town. I know a lot about this town, having been involved in many aspects of this town, from Little League president to announcing football games, been involved in raising money for the township, for Peterson Field to put up scoreboards, to wreck the dugouts and things like that by getting donations for those things. Things have changed a lot in the township. And I love this township a lot. My kids grew up in this town. And to be the judge in this town now and to be able to affect things as the judge has been a wonderful thing. I've done a lot of things, but being the judge is the culmination of what I have been, what I've done in this town. I've been able to affect the town, I think, by keeping the crime rate down. I've been very strict with shoplifters in this town, and my reputation is very strict with shoplifters, and that has an overall effect in keeping the crime down throughout the town, I feel. And I had a discussion with Council President Kelly about that, and how I believe it affects your overall crime rate in this particular town and keeping down the crime rate in this town. And yet on the other side, I know about the kids in this town. So when the kids come before me, you have to show some compassion for those kids. They're our kids. They are our kids, and we don't want to have them have a bad time. We don't want to scare them. We want to treat them. And we want to show them that, they have a chance in life. There's a lot of drugs out there, and we deal with that a lot too. And I feel I'm very compassionate with drug offenders, and I try to give them every chance to get off drugs as much as I can. And it's very difficult, and it's very hard to see these kids go through the drugs. There's a lot of heroin out there and a lot of other things. And a lot of times they don't make it. But I work hard to make sure that I give them every chance to do that. My last remedy is throw them in jail. But I don't like to do that. So I've worked very hard. I love this township. This is the first township I ever became a judge in, and I would hope for the council that you reappoint me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I know the frustrations, too, we talked about with bail reform and trying to move that forward to assist you in what you do. So thanks again. With that being said, no, go ahead, Your Honor.
I'm not related to Phyllis Smith.
With that being said, if we can just do the roll.
No, I make a motion.
I second the motion.
Council President,
Yes.
I have a question.
Can it wait until after the roll?
No, that was resolution before us.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilman Jeniak.
Council President, the resolution R-1969 confirming the appointment of municipal judge
With consent from the council.
states that the term is for 3 years.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
It also says that the term expires on April 2nd of 2022.
That's when his previous term expired.
So have we been without a judge for a week?
No.
That's the way it says.
Clerk, can you please do the roll? I understand. We're going to do the roll. Thank you, Mr. Jeniak.
Answer to that question.
I don't at the moment. And if we could just move forward.
Councilmember Quinn?
A wholehearted yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
What should I do, Judge? Oh, yes.
Councilmember Jednak? Councilmember Palumbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Your Honor, I was always praying for this day. Yes. I have 8 yeses, 1 abstention. Motion carries. Congratulations, Your Honor. Mr. Dyer?
I'm still waiting.
Okay. I'm going to keep asking.
All right.
Number 11, we have the 2019 budget. We have the ordinance for introduction. It's 019-10 ordinance. I'm sorry?
09.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, you got a bad copy. It's 019.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, 019-9. Ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits to establish a cap bank under NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Jeniak.
Is that out of order? Should we be taking action on the introduction of the budget itself before establishing a cap bank?
No, the ordinance to establish the cap bank must be introduced prior to the introduction of the budget.
Did you hear that, Councilman Jeniak?
I did, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
He's done 6 budgets, he should know.
I'm sorry, Mr.
I said he's done 6 budgets, so you should know that.
We all don't know everything.
Yeah. Mr. Freelander, let's not feed into any of this. Thank you. We do each one A, and then we'll do B.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Good job, Dave.
Motion by Mr. Quinn, right?
Yep.
Second by
Mrs. Smith. Please do the roll.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Jednak?
Council President, I think we forgot that discussion on that item.
Introductions don't require discussion, that's public hearing.
We typically have had discussion, or are we just not going to have discussion?
We're in the middle of the roll. We're not going to discuss anything during the roll. Is there a vote you want to have?
No.
That's the answer to the question, or that's your vote?
Both.
Continue, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Palumbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. I have 8 yeses, 1 no, motion carries. I have B is the introduction of the 2019 budget. It's R19-67, a resolution to introduce the 2019 municipal budget of the Township of Rockaway and the County of Morris. This is, Paul Mary, is there anything you want to add, or do you want to talk about it all from the process? And
Is this under that? Is that under this? No. No?
Just that tonight is the introduction, and the adoption is scheduled for May 15th. We had, I believe, 4 meetings with the council to discuss it in detail. Prior to that, the administration and I worked with department heads, and we're ready to move forward.
so it was the initial budget hearings that you had back in November 1st to November 7th, where you had multiple hearings over in the conference area that we had over there in 2018, more dealing with operating expenses and stuff like that?
Operating, capital, salary or personnel requests, etc.
And I think, Mrs. Seeger, we were trying to hit a low number, trying to minimize our increases at the time?
I did.
Okay. And then through that processes that we had leading up to the most recent meeting on the 4th of April, we had a total amount of deductions, which would be a reduced taxation or a reduced levy. So that would be $505,018 here for a little over $500,000 of a reduction.
Yes, I left everyone on the dais a list of the cuts that or adjustments, I should say, they're not all cuts, over the course of the 4 meetings. And the impact on the tax rate is $505,018 reduction, a reduction in the water utility budget for $2,000, and a reduction in the capital budget of $42,000.
Well, a total amount of $549,018, right?
Correct.
So there's going to be a reduced amount that the taxpayers are going to see this year?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah.
I know that was a question, yes.
Does anybody have any questions? Anybody? Mr. Quinn, Mrs. Smith? Anybody down here? Nope. Are those chips good?
Council President,
Yes, Mr. Genio.
in previous years, we've had a calculation of the tax rate based on the...
Hold on, Mr. Jedinak, can you hold on 1 second?
Microphone, it's hard to hear you. Go ahead.
So in previous years, we've had a calculation of the tax rate, so we can compare that with the proposed introduced budget tax rate would be as compared to the previous year's tax rate.
Is that something you have now? Or?
I can tell you that the tax rate that was adopted in 2018 was .7304 for the municipality, and it is now to be introduced at .7067, which is a reduction of .2037 on the municipal side.
I'm sorry,
.0237 reduction.
Can you please repeat the first number from 2018?
The 2018 adopted budget municipal rate, .7304.
Okay.
The 2019 introduced rate, if it is introduced, is .7067. The reduction is .0237.
Thank you, Lisa.
Councilman Jedinak, were there any other questions that you had of the CFO?
Just a repeat of that second number.
7.7006?
No.
7067.
Thank you.
Is that all the questions?
And all the downward adjustments that were made by the council went to the tax levy?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Clerk, ready to roll?
Do we have a motion in a second?
I make a motion for the introduction of the 2019 budget.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Jedinak?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes, 9 yeses, 0 nos. Motion carries. 12, we have ordinances to introduce.
Check the date.
I'm sorry?
Do you want to check with Mr. Dyer about the...
Mr. Dyer? We're ready? Okay.
They're here. Do a good job. Don't embarrass me. Turn the microphone off. I just heard that. It's okay.
Well, thank you, Public Council. Thank you very much.
Your Honor, you can take the staff. I'm here. Thank you.
I had it originally as 4, and she changed it to 9, and now I have it as 10. It was 4. Then they did no, and they voted it down. So it's gone. It was voted down. And, well, 10 they can vote. 4 is no.
I'm Councilman Jonathan Sackett. You're reading the Mayor's Proclamation tonight. I remember some of you girls when I coached 4th grade. You guys were in the 3rd grade, playing against Coach here when I coached the Soul. So proud of all you guys, seeing you guys. My daughter's on the 6th grade travel team. So I know they practice with you guys sometimes. So I'm going to read the Mayor's Proclamation tonight. Township of Rockaway Proclamation. Whereas in every child who is born, the potential of the human race is born again, and that potential is nurtured by the love and support of family and community. And whereas the highlight of a very successful season for the Rockaway Township Lady Rockets 5th grade travel basketball team in winning the 2018-2019 Jersey Basketball Association Championship on March 10th, 2019, beating Bridgewater Middle School. And whereas, coming from behind, after being down by 5 points and only 3 minutes remaining in the game, the young Lady Rockets pulled together, hitting 2 foul shots with only 11 seconds left on the clock for a 1-point victory over Branchburg. And whereas the 2018-2019 season record demonstrates the incredible achievement accomplished by this young team, who exemplified the importance of character and commitment both on and off the court, and who should be most proud of their contributions to the team effort. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Michael Puzio, do hereby recognize and congratulate head coach Eric Heidler as coach of the Rockaway Township Lady Rockets 5th grade basketball team for a fine season, further acknowledge the dedication, hard work, sportsmanship, and fair play demonstrated by these coaches, and call upon the citizens of the Township of Rockaway to extend well wishes to the team members and coaches for continued fulfillment in their endeavors and for every happiness in their lives. Congratulations. So I'm gonna call you guys up one at a time. So we got head coach Eric Heidler. Congratulations. Assistant coach Rob Shaw's not here. Okay. He's not here, but assistant coach Rob Shaw. Assistant coach Scott Haig. Maya Heidler. Mia Heidler, excuse me. Emil Bosi. Kelly Kapik. Carly Haig. John V. Shaw. Samantha Welsh. Kayla Ruiz. Ava John. Maya Zorko. Alexa Saltz. Tyra Aful. Congratulations, 5th grade Lady Rockets. Great season. Be proud of yourself. Here you got a little picture with the mayor. Coming up, a little picture.
You can get it, John, or you can get us all in there, right? When you think, sure, why not? It wouldn't be fair.
I want them standing right in front of me.
Just give us a chance to line up. Give us 1 second.
Coming, very common. He's coming. Still okay. Right back here. Come on, love. Great season, Joe. Any more? Yeah. Thanks for the blood. I gave my blood to that. Thanks very much. Hey.
There you go.
No?
Township shirt.
No, that was water I sold before from the right here, maybe?
I think what Jeremy meant before with these ordinances to introduce, which we introduced in 1909, sometimes the council will discuss and doesn't require a public session. I think that's what he meant. I couldn't
Maybe.
and I shut it down.
Do you have that South Carolina?
Do you want to look at
11.
this one?
Right.
Here, Doctor.
You don't have the right agenda. I'm replacing it. And you want 1910?
Yeah, please. Hold on, I got it right here. You got it.
This is This is the draft.
It is.
I have it right here. You have the agenda again, please?
Right here.
Sorry about that. We have next is ordinances to introduce. And Ms. Seeger, I just have a quick question on ordinance introduced would be 019-10. And we spoke about a little bit in our budget portion about ranges and stuff like that. Do you recall that? No, in our budget sessions. And we were talking about the ranges, and originally when we first questioned this, which we voted against it, to have it brought back for some changes and modifications that were on there.
I was not at that meeting.
The one with, actually a member of the public had brought up about the minimum wage, and then we all agreed to, we voted no on it, and then Mr. Yetrafano was going to...
I wasn't here at that meeting.
You weren't?
But I do know about it.
Okay. And then I thought in some of the budget portions that we had, we talked a little bit more about the minimums and maximums that are on here. The difference in the salaries that individuals currently receive now, and then there's the maximum annual salary. How is the justification from what one receives? Is there an equalization throughout each employee of an increase from what their current salary is to what a maximum would be?
I think not necessarily, but we did it based on the current salary, and we did it the same length as the other contract.
Can you talk in a microphone? Or whatever you have to get something.
Sure.
There you go.
Okay. If I remember right, we did it based on the current salaries. And then we tried to take this out for 4 years or 3 years, the same as the other contracts. So we don't have to do it every year. So 2%, 2%, 2%.
And you Mrs. Palmieri?
Well,
Mrs. Palmieri.
I was just going to give an example. There are the current salaries, but there are also ranges for the titles. Like, for example, the first one, business administrator, that $163,000 was a range that could encompass, someone making more than our current administrator. Her range falls within, her salary falls within this range, but this range could accommodate a future administrator making more. That's why it's at 163.
But, I mean, what Mrs. Seeger had said, it was just a 2% over a course of time.
Yes.
And on that particular...
It's 2%, but we, there's certain ranges that are, more extensive because, if you recall that, we had our previous administrator made 160. So, when Mrs.
But we also have a range here that 81.5, too, at a minimum.
81?
right? Minimum salary for that same position would be 81?
Minimum is 81.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
so the range is broad.
Sure. I was just wondering how the calculation had come, because I think even with our chief of police, as another example, was that salary is currently now at 162. So the range is, there's only a small percentage of an increase for that individual, where the first example you made, there's a $23,000 difference of an annual salary. And I was just wondering if there was a formula, like you said. I thought what Mrs. Seeger said was 2%, 2%, 2%.
Most of the
In most, it is.
Okay.
Like, I just used that first one because we had the previous administrator making more. But yes, typically it's 2% for 3 years.
And it just seems that some other of our exempt employees aren't getting that same type of an increase.
For example?
Well, again, I just said as far as the police chief would be one.
No.
At 162, he's at the range is 166.
Right, but I think if you did the math on his current salary, added 2% and 2%, you're going to come to 166.
Okay, so then that's what I'm trying to point out.
Yes.
If that works with the 2%, but yet the one doesn't work with the 2%, basing it on, because, we've had some differences in some of these levels, and I was just wondering why it wasn't the same across the board for each one of those employees based on their current salary. So instead of there being the example you made, one being $23,000 more, that's not consistent with.
Well, it's 2% over the previous ordinance, though. Like, if I took the previous ordinance, I believe was up to 160, because that's what our previous.
No, I hear all that. I was just basing it on what we were told previously, and even confirming it now, that it's based on the 2% to the current salaries that each individual is receiving that are in these positions. And some of that formula does not calculate correctly. And I was just wondering if it was consistent or if it wasn't consistent. And it's not consistent, so that was the question I had asked.
Okay.
Councilman Jeniak?
I share those same concerns. This ordinance, if you look at the previous ordinance that was passed and ones before that, the minimum annual salary was 0 in those ordinances. And I think that should be the case here. I don't think that it makes sense for the township to be telegraphing minimum salaries to prospective employees. With regard to the maximum annual salaries, it's hard to justify why those exceed the amounts that are in the budget we just passed. If they're higher than those amounts, then throughout the course of the year, the administration has the ability to pay those higher amounts if they can find the funds in the budget to do so. There's one less opportunity for oversight for the council. So I think that the maximum annual salaries should be set to match this exactly in the budget we just produced. The minimum should be set to 0 like they have been in previous salary ordinances. I also found 4 full-time positions and 1 part-time position listed that are not even in the budget. And I believe that those should be removed from this ordinance. And we have, you mentioned some of the salaries that exceed the current amounts. The engineers at a 22% increase over what is currently budgeted in this year's budget. The mayor, council members, and council president all have 6% raises in here over the current amounts budgeted. And there is at least 1 employee whose title is actually less than what is in the budget, and so that's an error. And I think that should be corrected along with all the other modifications that I suggest.
That has to be corrected.
Can you tell us what position that is? Mrs. Palmieri's asking that question.
I believe it's Director of Recreation. The number doesn't reflect the number on page 124 of the budget book.
Who does he think, now, we can't talk personally.
Don't say the name, but 124?
What?
He's saying it at the top range doesn't agree with the page 124 for that particular title.
Mr. Jeniak, what's the title?
Director of Recreation. Director of Recreation.
75,000?
The budget amount exceeds the maximum salary, which would be an error. That employee wouldn't actually be able to be paid what's in the budget if we adopt this ordinance as is.
I know the answer to that. I know. 70.
No, that's
70. That particular person, he's assuming is that person, but that person won a desk audit, and he's in the union, and that position is in the union, and it is his, that salary range is up to 75,000. What he, it doesn't, it can't. Yes, and it's recreation supervisor. He's not the recreation director. There's nobody in that position right now.
There's no recreation director.
At this time.
Director of recreation at this time.
There isn't.
But I thought we just did that. We moved it from 59,000 to 75, giving that individual an increase.
Yes, and he won a desk audit for recreation supervisor, and that's a union position. It didn't give it to him director of recreation yet. We haven't done those yet.
It was my understanding that that was part of the budget.
As what?
Or director of recreation.
Well, I'm hoping
that's
how it was conveyed to us for the vote.
Correct.
I mean, it says it right here. We questioned it during our, I have it highlighted with a question mark.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the salary ordinance maximum should be 75, not 70, because that's what's in the budget?
Correct.
Okay.
So can we make an amendment to this?
As director
Pay an employee
of recreation.
at a salary that exceeds the salary ordinance.
Did you hear that question?
Yeah, well, Lisa.
If there's an error, I'm saying if the budget's 75, then yes, this ordinance is an error. It needs to be up to 75. I agree.
So we'll just go no introduction, make your correction, and.
Well, you can make the correction now at introduction.
Council President.
It's just an introduction.
Council President.
Go ahead, Councilman.
So we also have 5 titles that don't appear in the budget. Full-time positions are Director of Community Services, Director of Health, Personnel Officer, Deputy Tax Collector, and on the part-time side, Recycling Attendant. And I believe that those should be removed from this.
I don't think they should be removed.
Then we can't make it.
Yeah, you have to leave them. I mean, you leave them there. It doesn't mean that we're going to...
If the administration would like to propose those positions, they can do so to the council, and the council can at that point decide to do that.
Why would you remove something that's always been there?
They don't
It
exist.
just reduces our flexibility to run the town.
May I ask a question?
Microphone, please.
I can't.
Microphone. I turned it off.
That's okay.
This ordinance is just to clarify the salaries for a particular title that's already on our records, but doesn't necessarily have to be filled.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct, Mrs. Smith.
But it's just there because it's always been there, and there could down the road be a possibility, but it would have to be included in the budget before you could hire them, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Council President, I think that's incorrect. I think that as long as the administration can find the money to pay for the title, they can use the title. And if we don't have the title in the budget, why do we have it in the ordinance?
Mr. Jedniak, we may need those titles someday. We may hire people with different skill sets. We have a certain workforce that's in place right now. We hire people along the way with different skills. Some people are good in one area and another. When we hire somebody, not everybody is the same. Not everybody is robotic and comes in with the same credentials, the same degrees, the same years of service. We need a little flexibility within the town, within the administration, to hire people. We speak about a business administrator. We have that we have that range. And if we need to hire a new business administrator and we want to increase our talent pool and get someone who may be very experienced if they apply for the job, we want to have that option.
I think, Mr. Mayor, what he was saying, he wasn't really talking about one individual. It was ones that aren't in the budget itself.
That was just a job. Those are just job titles. I just was giving an example.
I think the
flexibility that the mayor described as a council. Because if the mayor wanted to have flexibility and change a position at a later date, you could simply approach the council to do so.
I can give you a perfect example of that. When our payroll person left, and we had an accountant position too, and in the budget we changed those positions. It gave us flexibility to adjust the people that we needed to hire that position, and we combined that payroll supervisor to do more, and we were able to then just change the other position to a clerk, and we saved, I think, in the budget, $22,000. We need flexibility when people leave to fit them in the right place.
And the administration has that ability to have that flexibility by presenting it to the council.
And then it would take 3 more months. An ordinance takes 2 readings and everything, and we would be without somebody for a long time if we didn't have that flexibility.
And that oversight process is by design. That is why we have a salary ordinance.
The mayor, the administration is in charge of personnel and hiring.
Council has a role in overseeing the maximum salary set that the administration can offer and pay prospective employees. There should be a balance here. And the council, if it passes a salary ordinance that exceeds the amount that are in the budget, is basically handing that oversight responsibility away.
We had the same idea with this ordinance as we did as the other 2 that we passed with the range. Same exact idea.
I think if you're worried about us, the administration, the mayor's office, the business administrator, our CFO Palmieri, about being cost conscious, I think we've demonstrated that we are cost conscious through our actions. I don't think you need to be concerned with that, but there's a council, I say this quite a bit, there's a council of 9 people up there. You guys, ladies and gentlemen, can vote how you see fit. Thank you.
Council President, we need previous examples of where mysterious salary increases appeared mid-year that then tied the council's hands in the following budget process. We've had those conversations. We've seen that happen. There really is no good justification to set the maximum salary higher than the budgeted amount.
Just let it take the vote. That's it.
Would it be impossible to just make these simple adjustments where you can?
I don't think it's right to do that when you haven't done that on any of the other 2 salary ordinance. You're treating this staff different.
Well, it's not.
And I would like all the staff to be treated equally, because it would make, you know, I'm trying to keep the morale up. We have some great workers who right now we're short on time of putting extra time in, the extra effort. These are the main people who run your every day. They don't get paid for their overtime. They don't get paid for working longer, which they've been putting longer hours in. It would kill the morale. That's my personal opinion.
I think the question was, it wasn't about killing morale. It was just because it was done prior. Doesn't always make it that it was something that was correctly done. It was just a question based on your own statement that you said that it was an average of a 2%, 2%, 2%.
On most of it.
And on some of those people, you look at it, that they don't get the same potential or flexibility of an increase, much like yourself, and others have a far reduced amount of threshold to hit. So it was only a question that was raised that way. You know, you told me one thing, Mrs. Pullman, you told me something else.
I said most of them were done that way.
But I mean, we thought that it would be consistent throughout them all.
Well, it's not, and it depends on the position and the type. And if we have to adjust any, like Mr. Jeniak said, we can come back to the council and ask.
Didn't we just speak of removing positions from here? That's what I heard. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, there were positions that weren't in the budget. That's what the question was. It wasn't taking away a vacancy or whatever. It was asking about, you have positions that are on the salary ordinance, but yet they're not in the budget. So Mr. Jeniak, I believe, if I'm correct, had stated, should we have those positions in the salary ordinance since we don't have them budgeted in the budget?
Yes.
Yes, in case we need them.
Request them to be added To the council. Let him vote. I'm not. Let him vote.
I'm sorry, Councilman, can you just repeat that? Councilman Jeniak, could you repeat that, please?
Oh, I didn't realize you were speaking to me. The previous practice in previous years, I believe in the reference book that the council president has in front of him, you'll have a salary or the most recent exempt salary ordinance. When Mrs. Seeger references other salary ordinances, everyone should be reminded that for the non-exempt employees, those ordinances are governed by contract. Any increases there or maximums there are governed by the contract. These are exempt employees not covered by contract. And the previous practice has been the minimums have been set to 0. And you'll see that in the reference guide in front of you. And the maximum salaries have tracked the budgeted amount. It's hard to understand why the administration wants the flexibility to pay more than what we have just budgeted for today between now and the next budget process, except to pay out more than what we've just budgeted.
Can't exceed the.
That's a way to blow the budget up.
But I think, Mrs. Seeger, if I didn't hear you, but I think what I saw you say was that you can't exceed the budget.
Correct.
But I think what Councilman Jeniak is saying, then why doesn't the salary ordinance reflect that?
Because we need the range for it. But what I was when I was talking about the other two ordinances, they have positions in there that we haven't, that aren't in the budget, and we approved them, because if someone who leaves at a senior level is coming at a junior level, we need the junior level in there, even though we only have a senior level. So we have those different in the other, but if you look at the other ordinances, we don't have every one of those positions in the budget.
No, I know, but I mean.
So I'm just comparing apples to apples.
Saying the maximum.
Council President.
Go ahead. We're going to end this dialogue.
Council President, one of the junior level positions just referenced by Ms. Seeger is Director of Health with a maximum salary of $133,000. Another one is Director of Community Services with a maximum salary of $130,000. Those don't sound like junior positions. That's not the case for exempt employees in general. And again, why would the council and mayor and council president have a retroactive to January 1st maximum salary that's more than 6%?
No, but they're not, they're still in the ordinance.
That's right.
We just vote.
Remember that the administration can find the money, right, pay more than what is in an individual line item of a budget. They can't exceed the overall amount of the entire budget. The funds can be moved around. We've seen that. We've seen evidence of that as we've gone through the budget process. That's happened in previous years.
Council President, can we call the vote?
Stage for that.
I second that.
We're not making a motion. And real quick, Mrs. Seeger, so we can move on to the vote. The corrections that are, we identified one of them. How do we want to address the correction?
Oh, the one that we changed.
I would just say you want to amend that one for Director of Recreation to be $75,000 and just vote on it as correct.
Correct.
To agree with the budget.
The maximum.
But can we do that?
On an ordinance.
On an ordinance.
It's an introduction.
It's an introduction, so.
It's not a vote on it, it's just an
You'd
introduction.
make the motion to amend it first, and then you would vote to introduce.
Right, the amendment first.
Yep. So let's do that. Let's make the motion. The 75.
What do you want?
Are you making the motion?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find that one particular. It's going to be the fourth one from the bottom, Director of Recreation. I'm going to make a motion to correct the maximum annual salary from $70,000 to $75,000 to match the line item on department number 370, and that would be the Recreation Director as proposed in the 2019 budget. Is that sufficient, Mrs.
That's
Palmieri?
sufficient, thank you.
Second.
Mr. Quinn makes a second on that.
Yes, he did.
Any discussion real quick? No discussion?
Nope.
Please do the roll. Sorry.
No.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Jedinak?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. 9 yeses, 0 no's. Motion carries. Now we are going to make a motion. Yes, Mr. Jedinak.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the remaining maximum salaries we had put in the 2019 budget to introduce.
No.
Can you repeat that, please?
My motion is to amend ordinance 019-10 such that the maximum annual salaries are set to be the corresponding amount in the 2019 budget just introduced.
That's your motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second down here? Seeing no second, motion is failed. Again, we have the ordinance introduced, which is 019-10. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
With the amendment, the amended motion.
Yes, correct.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Freelander. Sorry, Mr. Freelander, motion. Freelander. It would be ordinance 19-10. Clerk, please do the roll.
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Jedinak? Councilmember Palumbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Abstain.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. I have 7 yeses,
sorry.
1 no, 1 abstention. Motion carries. I have under 12, I have B, would be ordinance 19-11. It's an ordinance of the Township of Rockaway, County of Morris, New Jersey, providing various capital improvements for the Township of Rockaway and appropriations of $2,220,546. Therefore, in providing for the issuance of $1,442,771 in general improvement bonds or notes of the Township of Rockaway to finance the same. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Freelander, is that you?
That was me.
Mr. Freelander, second.
Council President.
Discussion.
Councilman Jedinak?
Ordinance 019-11 was amended, I believe,
Did you ask if 019-11, if this is the amended ordinance?
Correct.
Yes.
We never introduced it prior. Amended to what?
Well, you had given us a...
previous version.
Yeah, it was never even...
Oh, I had provided, yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
You had been provided but never acted on. Correct, this is amended.
Yes, this is the correct one.
Right. And Council President, looking at the previous one and the title of the previous one and comparing it to this one, which includes the dollar amounts being appropriated, shouldn't the dollar amounts be lower in this one to reflect the items removed?
Well, I had given the clerk the amended dollars previously. So the title didn't change.
But the number...
These dollars include the amended amounts.
So the correct amount
Yeah.
Can I explain what happened?
Go ahead.
When 019-11 was provided to me, Ms. Palmieri was able to provide me with the new numbers to be put into the title of the ordinance, but the body still needed to be changed. So the first version that you received has the correct numbers in the title. The body of the ordinance was changed.
Okay, good. Well, that was a good question. Yeah,
that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, Mr. Jedinak.
Those numbers don't appear to correspond with the capital plan sheet number 214 in the budget book.
After our changes that we did on the last budget hearing?
Both before and after.
The capital plan includes, if we're going to talk about a project, Peterson Field. The capital ordinance does not.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Genia?
I didn't hear anything.
Mrs. Palmieri, the last time, if I could just add, sorry.
The capital plan in the budget you adopted includes Peterson Field. The capital ordinance before you for introduction does not.
So the amount that you have that you're looking in the budget would be a higher amount than what is on this particular ordinance to introduce?
That's correct.
It ought to be, but the number that I see in the budget says 1.9 million. The amount that I see here is 2.2 million.
The amount in the budget at 1.9 is the amount we're borrowing. The amount we're borrowing on this ordinance is 1.4.
Okay, so is does the 1.4 number reflect the 1.9 minus the changes made?
Yeah, I think so.
The original amount was 3.08 million. It is now down to 2.2, which excludes Peterson Field. It excludes the vehicle that you cut, 55,000. It includes the diagnostic equipment, 13,000.
In all fairness, Mr. Genia, since you're on the phone, Mrs. Palmieri was kind enough to provide us with some documentation of the recap of the council budget adjustments for 2019. I don't believe you have that?
No.
Mr. Genia?
I'm familiar with because that were made.
No, I understand that, but she put
that were
that.
made to the capital portion, which is what we're
I was just trying to help you out to see.
So the correct number then is the 3.05 million number?
No.
I believe the correct number is the 2.2.
The correct before number before the Peterson Field improvements and the other changes were made. And that 3.0 million is reduced to 2.2 million.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Is there any other questions?
That was it.
That was it. So I have a motion, I have a second. Is there anything else? Mr. Freelander? No?
No, second.
We do the roll?
Let's go.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Jednak?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. I got 9 yeses, 0 noes. Motion carries. Going over to C, we have Ordinance 19-12. An ordinance of Township of Rockaway and the water utility improvements for the Township of Rockaway and appropriation $636,000, therefore, and providing for the issuance of $596,000 in general improvement bonds or notes of the Township of Rockaway to finance the same. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second, I have Mr. Quinn. Motion, second by Mrs. Smith. Any discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none. Clerk, please do the roll.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Jednak?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Sackett?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. That's 9 yeses, 0 noes. Motion carries. Mr. Mayor, I was going to bring something up on old business, but we don't have old business on here, but it's going to be similar to what your new business is. So I wanted to talk about the Bowlbyville sewer as well.
Sure.
So you know what, I'm just going to follow up on what you're going to report.
Sure.
Is there any questions that I have or the members of the council have as well?
Sure.
We don't have Mr. Sheard here,
We do not.
and we don't have Mr. Perone here. And we don't have the tax assessor.
They're not necessary for tonight, for what
Okay.
we're going to present. As you know, Bowlbyville has been on the books for 25 years. I'll just give you a brief history of what happened, what the facts surrounding it are. There is a sewer assessment that was not levied on a certain section of town where sewers were installed. And it's been 25 years, and assessments haven't been paid. So now, they haven't been made, actually. They haven't been made, and they haven't been paid. This happened 25 years ago, and so we're doing a little bit of catch-up. What happened is...
We do have one payment, though, $288,000.
That would be incorrect. And I'll get to that in a minute if I'm allowed to. We do not have a payment of $280,000, and I'm going to touch upon that because we did a little bit of research in that area. This project, if you want to call it that, has been outstanding for 25 years. We're trying to deal with it now as effectively as possible and quickly as possible. The homes in that area have changed hands. Some people have sold their homes, some people remain there. So how do we go about collecting how do we go about assessing those residents, and how do we go about collecting the monies from those people that have sold their house, who have moved there without them knowing. So what I'm going to present tonight for the council is, after doing our research, we actually have a mechanism in place in town that was used at one point in time. I'm not going to go back to what happened 25 years ago. We're going to deal with it now. We're not going to lay blame on anybody. This administration and the council are going to deal with Bowlbyville, and we're going to put it to rest at some point. What we had in the past is a Board of Assessment Commissioners for local improvements. In our ordinances, we have a mechanism where the council can form a Board of Commissioners for local improvements, and that board will consist. I have copies of what the board, the creation of it, and the mechanism that would be put in place. It would consist of 3 commissioners. They would be appointed by the council. Our town attorney would assist with the legal matters, and meetings would take place. The tax assessor, anybody that the council sees fit that they want at the meeting to help them rectify this problem. So what I'm going to do is I want to give the council copies of that ordinance that we have in our midst here, and I'm going to ask them if they would like for me for the next meeting for the town attorney to craft a resolution so they can form that commission and have the ability to appoint people to deal with this issue. Sure.
Mr. Mayor, you can pass it around. I have a question for you based on what you had a question on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On 1971.
Thank you.
In our prior matters that we had a sewer review committee and we had a sewer assessment committee at one time. And then what you want to draft here for the commissioners, what did we have in place when we dealt with like line 14, 17, all those lines in White Meadow Lake, and the other assessment that we dealt with over there in Richard Mine Road that affected over in the condominium area, as well as the 93 that we dealt with the Bowlbyville. So, in other words, something you want to create now, but how did all those other lines get assessed and collected, and this one didn't, in a sense? Like, were these in place then?
This commission existed. After speaking with the administration and doing a little bit of history, this commission has existed way back when. I don't have the exact dates. I don't have everything in front of me. But this commission was formed. I don't even think that it was dissolved at one point. I don't even think that this commission has been dissolved.
So this commission that we have, that you're saying that it hasn't been dissolved, if it hasn't been dissolved, then why wasn't the commission then applied towards this sewer assessment to where 25 years had gone by, when in the meantime, almost simultaneously or around that same period, White Meadow Lake and other areas in the town did have a sewer assessment and collected on that project?
Okay, you're asking me questions. Obviously, you don't know the answers, and I don't know the answers either. That's why I made the statement that I'm not going to go back in time, that we're going to try to deal with this as effectively as possible now, and this is the recommendation of our legal team as to how we can move forward with this. I don't have answers for how White Meadow was dealt with. Why not?
I get you, but you know what? My concern is it's so unfair to those individuals that are not a recipient of that sewer line of the northern end of town, those who had assessments applied to in White Meadow Lake that paid for it. And then we had this that was starting to be somewhat looked into by our TA as far back as 2016 of June.
Okay, I'm not going to touch upon those issues because it's going to possibly end up in legal. This potential project, this potential commission that will be formed if the council chooses it to deal with this issue will, I'm not going to say for 100% certainty, but I believe that part of this may end up in court. And it's going to be a little bit of a splintered solution. It's one that we've mulled over. We feel it's best if we get some people involved. The commission is formed to hash out some ideas and deal with this. It's going to possibly turn into a legal issue. That's why I'm not going to talk as far as the merits of what was done in the past, what's being done now. This has been presented to me, and it's the best way to handle it.
And Mr. Mayor, and you made a statement before about there was no payments. Again, I'm only going based on the documents, because if we go under, ordinance, 9305 and 9311, 94, and then 0426 and so forth and so on, that report that we received from the appraisal in 2006, I believe, is it Zeinenberg? It shows the difference of the $288,000 that were collected by the Armory, allegedly. It's the township document.
Oh, I'm going to give you an answer for that.
And then
sure.
We have the difference of that of the 650 plus, because it was just under, it was over 1.375, but then the total cost of it was actually reduced from the amount, was less than $1 million, just a tad. But these are township documents that I've reviewed.
Absolutely, and that was taken into consideration. What you said was taken into consideration. The Armory was never assessed. They gifted us $280,000 for the installation to lower the total cost of installation for the whole entire area. So I'm just going to use an arbitrary number because I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. But if it cost to install those sewers, to put them in $1 million, they gave the project, the entire project, $280,000 to reduce the cost of the entire project. They were never assessed.
Well, and that's where I'm a little concerned, because when I had asked for the assessment of that, because it's an R13 zone and the size of their property, they had figured out how many R13 lots would be in the property of the Armory to come up for the assessment for their amount that they would owe.
Okay, I think it's best that we discuss this, if you choose to form a commission, that you discuss this behind closed doors, so it doesn't breach any sort of legal issues that may come up.
Well, and the last question I have is that there was an issue going back to 2001 with our prior tax collector who had retired, that provided a list of those who were allegedly not connected or connected without having any maintenance that was going on there. Now, I know that our DPW director, and at that time was Water and Sewer, was doing somewhat of a review of that, and that had never been completed. And some of the areas we're talking about is Berkshire, there's Hillside, there's Gatos that's over there, there's North Street, but there was some question of some of those properties that were connected. There was nothing done, and some of them are still connected and not paying a fee, where they had actually challenged saying that they were connected to Dover. But when we looked at Dover records for the report that the administration did over there, it shows that there was nobody connected to Dover and that there was no permits there. Everybody would be on Rockaway, on the Rockaway line. So where are we at with that?
Council President, all I'm suggesting is that we form the commission to deal with these issues that you're bringing up. That this can be done behind closed doors.
Yeah, but the commission doesn't resolve that, though.
It will resolve it if you,
how
if you
does the
form
commission
one.
resolve about people that are connected that are not paying? Not for the usage, not just the assessment, but the usage.
You can discuss this behind closed doors with the town attorney, with the commissioners if you choose to appoint them, with the tax.
Mr. Mayor.
The public want, well then tell them.
You're not allowing me to. You're telling me that we can't.
I don't control what you say.
Well,
I can only, you have the report. I can only control what I say. I'm not going to try to control what you say. I'm telling you that this is best heard behind closed doors through a commission. I'm only offering you a mechanism to solve this problem that I was told was the best solution after hearing the issue at hand.
So 25 years we come to this conclusion about a commission that we had in place that we didn't apply, and then we have 3 years of our TA reviewing this matter, billing the taxpayers to come up with the assessment amount for that, and then you want to do it behind closed doors, and then you're giving me the option to somewhat give that. I thought it would be a collective agreement that we would provide the individuals with that information that are all of the taxpayers in Rockaway are paying for this.
You have the report.
Those are septic, those are that had sewer lines in different areas.
Understood.
I think that's okay. That's all right.
I didn't say I think anything's okay.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
No, I didn't. Mr. Kelly, Council President Kelly, please.
No.
Stop trying to create a narrative.
I'm not trying to create a narrative.
I didn't say anything was okay. I say that there's a lot of issues that need to be dealt with, and it's best heard behind closed doors. It's a legal matter.
Right. You're not telling me.
What do you suggest? What do you suggest? You present problems to the administration. I try to deal with them effectively. I have critics, but no criticism, but no solutions. I'm giving you a solution, and you just are critical of it. So I'm finished, sir. Thank you.
How many properties do we have that are the same people that own there from?
Sir, I'm not going to get into the mechanics of it.
Right.
You presented a problem to the administration. I'm telling you how I think it should be dealt with, and you're criticizing it. If you don't want to form a commission, then come up with your own solution.
You don't want to answer the questions that I asked you. It's clear.
Your questions are so ambiguous, Mr. Kelly, I can't even follow them. Most people can't.
Obviously, I know. It's very difficult. They have 77.
It just goes on and on and on.
It's not a problem.
Yep. Everybody else is paying for it.
We're going to, go ahead, Mr. Jeniak.
Available to the public for review.
I didn't make the Bowlbyville.
The report.
Available to the public.
I can't even hear them.
I'll second that.
There's a report that was out there that was provided by our township attorney that we've been waiting on for 3 years of some information, and then we had the administration wanted to have a report done by our town attorney. It wasn't requested by council, it was requested by our administrator, our acting administrator at the time.
Of course, you presented a problem, and I'm trying to deal with it.
There's been a problem beforehand, Mr. Cusio.
Sir, I took over in November. Please don't try to cast aspersions that I've been here for 25 years. Please don't listen. I just said in the beginning of this that I'm not going to go back and lay blame. I'm trying to come up with a creative solution. Whether you choose to accept it, it's the council's right to accept it or not accept it. I feel it's a good solution. It's in our code, and it can be used to the benefit of solving this. That's all I'm saying.
25 years and you've come to that conclusion.
It's a fantastic conclusion, and it deals with the issue. Unless you have another mechanism and you want to be collaborative, what is your solution to the problem?
That we address the current property owners that are still there right now, moving forward.
Couldn't the commission come to that conclusion after discussing it?
Well, we had a sewer assessment committee too that dissolved somehow with the prior administration. That's not this administration's problem.
Exactly. Long before my time. I'm just trying to give you a creative solution.
When were you a councilman, Mr. Puzio?
Sir, what does this have to do with anything?
Well, you were around at the time.
What does this have to do with, it wasn't presented to me.
Mr. Mayor, you don't want to touch it, I understand.
Sir, listen, I come up with solutions. I come up with solutions. You come up with criticism. That's all you do is criticize. Thank you.
We have a motion. Do you remember the report that we got? Go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Yachafano, the report that we have on Bowlbyville, can we give that to the public?
The report that was presented to the council was presented to the council pursuant to the request to the administration. It was presented to the council as an advisory, consultative, and deliberative document. It was presented to the client as attorney-client work product and consistent with the attorney-client privilege. Okay. It is the subject of a recently filed lawsuit by Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt had filed an Oprah request, which in part sought the report. A redacted report was provided to Mr. Schmidt. That is the subject of one part of Mr. Schmidt's most recently filed suit, alleging that the non-provision of the report and the Oprah exceptions that were elected are improper.
Do we have a copy of that?
The report has yet to be discussed in closed session. My recommendation to the council is that if the council wants to discuss this in closed session, we can do so at the next meeting, and I'm sure Mayor Puzio at that time will have Mr. Perrone and Mr. Sheard, and quite frankly, anyone else the council wants to discuss the report at that time. Now, having said that, it's my response, so my personal opinion is that the report should be withheld at least until the council considers it in closed session. Now, having said that, okay, I'm obligated to give the council what we'll call the other side of the law, okay? The privileges that I have cited are privileges of a client, okay? The client is the township, okay? Collectively, okay? Could the council vote to release the report to the general public at this time? Well, I suppose it could. Would that be legal? No, in my opinion, because the council is not the whole township, okay? We have a council, we have an administration, we have a legislative, and we have an executive. I simply counsel the council that I think the prudent thing to do, considering that there has been no closed session yet, council's had the report for approximately a month, okay, that we have a closed session at the next meeting, and one of the council asked the mayor to produce whoever the council might want to assist in its consideration of the report. Okay, that's all I can say about the report.
Okay, thank you. Council President?
Yeah.
Based on what our town attorney stated, I think we should go ahead and one more meeting, let's talk about it in closed session.
And you know, we're having discussion here from Mr. Freelander, and I feel exactly what you're saying that's on that. The response that we had from Mr. Iatrofano in the past, there has been attorney-client privilege or memos that have been circulated, they've been passed, they've been put up on social media as well, even by our mayor, I believe, on one occasion. And it just seems that it may be picking or choosing, but we have this memo that we can't talk about anything that may have some information or maybe assist the public that's there. And now we have litigation because of this memo.
Mr. Kelly, can you tell us specifically what memos you're referring to and who released them?
Yeah, we can get copies of them that are on there. I don't have them on my hand.
That doesn't answer my question.
You didn't answer mine either in the past, Mr. Iatrofano. I only do what I have.
No, you asked me.
Council President, I just have one comment.
Yeah.
We have requested for the past 4 meetings or a month for Mr. Sheard and Mr. Perrone. I know you've asked more than once to come and for questions. So it's not that we haven't made that request.
Mr. Perrone was here.
I'm sorry.
He was not prepared because Mr. Sheard wasn't here. Okay, we can go back to the audio and listen to it.
I think Mr. Puzio, Mayor Puzio, what Mrs. Abrahamson's saying is that, you know, on the 26th of February, when we originally discussed it, and then Mr. Sheard wasn't here, he told us in 30 days we were going to have it. What's an extra 30 days? It's been 25 years. I mean, I can kind of quote that from you.
Sure.
And then when that time came, you know, we didn't have anything after this. He was away or...
You did have something. Mr. Perrone was here ready to discuss a piece of it.
But not Mr. Sheard, though, just Mr. Perrone. And then you wouldn't let Mr. Iatrofano speak. You wanted Mr. Perrone to deal with it because he was the one that drafted the...
Of course. I think that you would be best served by the person who drafted the document.
We have...
There are too many people talking at once.
Mayor Puzio, can we, next meeting, can we get Mr. Sheard and Mr. Perrone here?
I'll check, we'll have the, check their schedule, see if Mr. Sheard is available and Mr. Perrone is available. Okay. And I hopefully they are, and we'll have them here.
And the taxes, well, whoever we need in this meeting to get to the bottom of this.
And I didn't put the tax assessor on because, Council President, you said you had spoken with him. But if you want him there,
Have you spoken to him?
No.
Okay, then I think it would be good to have him.
Okay, have you spoken with him?
A while ago when I gave him the Dover report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would the council like the tax assessor here?
We want everybody.
Well, in closed session, right?
Well, I want to make sure that we have everybody I want to make sure that we have all the key people here that the entire council wants. If it'll help, sure.
Yes. I mean, just what we could look at is what are the components of employees that we've had in the past that have helped resolve sewer assessments. So if all those individuals were a party to that, wouldn't it be necessary to have all of them so we could have them together at one time rather than only Mr. Perone or only Mr. Shear at one time? Maybe some documentation to support where we're at right now?
That's why I suggested it, if you want the tax assessor there. I'm asking. Trying to make this clear, make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, so, good. I mean, if we can get everybody, and just got a question for Mr. Iacofano.
Sure, I'll just have to check their schedules and see if they're available. 3 people, correct? Mr. Sheard, Mr. Burek, and Mr. Perone.
And those would be the folks that could move this along,
correct? Most of the people who dealt with this 25 years ago are no longer here. They don't work for the town.
I think also would be our tax collector too, because there's an issue with that. She has a report though, so she would be nice to have as well.
Okay.
Sure.
I just have a question for Mr. Iacofano. So, you're cautioning us not to release the report until we all meet together, correct?
Ultimately, the decision to release the report at whatever time, okay, is going to be the council's.
Okay, but are we on firmer ground once we've all had a chance to discuss this?
But in terms of the decisions you're going to be making, of course.
Okay, so after we meet and discuss this, you'd be okay with us releasing the report to the public?
I don't know. I can't answer that question at this time, honestly.
Yeah, at what point do you think it would be, or you just can't answer that either, what point do you think it would be okay to release this?
I think a lot depends upon, let me say this, and I'm not trying to be evasive. We are clear about the approach that should be taken to resolve and address the problem, okay? As far as that decision is concerned, okay, history doesn't matter except that history didn't achieve the objective that the township needs to achieve, okay? There may have been 5 bungles in the past, there may have been 100 bungles, okay? They're really irrelevant in terms of the mechanism going forward. The problem is the lack of assessment of the properties that benefit from that sewer line. And the only way to cure that problem is to move forward with the proper legal assessment process.
Okay, at some point, does that document become subject to Oprah?
It already is, courtesy of Mr. Schmidt.
From you guys, okay.
the April 23rd, 2019 meeting, that's when we can have these professionals here to address these questions and concerns.
Is subject to their availability. Obviously, I have to.
But we're gonna
check. We will
I mean,
check.
to move this along, every effort so we can.
I have one question. Do you expect the CFO to be here at that meeting? She is not here.
I don't think Mrs. Palmieri, well, it's easy. Mrs. Palmieri, are you generally a component, or is the CFO a component of a sewer assessment?
No, we're responsible for the collection. Again, I believe the tax collector's in the same boat I am. I don't personally see a need for us to be here. We're, like I said, responsible, once it's assessed, to go ahead and bill them. But the assessment component itself, getting them on the...
But I think our auditor, too, will be here at that time and can probably assist, because he was involved with the beginning stages of that. Well, I'll contact the auditor.
Okay.
That's our employee.
So you are, I just wanted to be transparent on who is available.
Do you want the engineer here, independent of Mr. Sheard?
I don't think Mrs. Ferrante is going to be any assistance.
Just asking.
Like I said, I had asked, what is the common collection of individuals to do the assessment? in the past? Like, what have we done? I mean, I asked this question, and now I'm getting it asked again. What are the components of employees that handle the assessment to where the assessment is now being collected?
If you're asking who would be the constituents of the Board of Assessment Commissioners.
No, I'm not asking you that.
Well, there's no hard and fast criteria.
Well, we know that we have Mr. Sheard is a component of it. We know that the tax collector is a component. We know that the tax assessor is. Well, the tax collector is the one that came up with all those other ones that were connected that we're not paying. So there's a component of that too.
She only gave us a record, like finance would give us a record, on who paid, but she's not a component of the assessment.
That's who should be
Our collector, not our current collector, but it's been passed down from collectors.
Yeah.
And the one that we had just resigned, and now we have a new collector that we recently appointed back in 18, was passed of that report and gone through of that. And I think there was a confirmation that there are still people that are connected to that sewer line that are not paying for that sewer line maintenance as well as an assessment. I mean, I don't have it on my person, but I can provide you with that report if you don't have it.
I have it.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about then?
Yes.
Okay.
But that was it was made up with another group. She didn't do it alone.
But she's the tax collector.
Okay.
Mr. Perron did. Right? Mr. Perron was the author of the report, Mr. Yachafano?
That's correct.
Is there anything else, Mr. Palumbo? So at this time, we have a motion on the floor. We had a lot of discussion on. There's anything else to go forward? It seems that the mayor is going to see about availability.
Correct.
And then we can...
Join the motion. Oh, no, Jeremy.
No, we already made the motion. You second the motion.
Yeah.
Do the roll call.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. What's the motion for?
To release the report.
Oh, no. No.
Councilmember Freelander?
No.
Councilmember Jednak?
Yeah, sure.
Councilmember Palumbo?
No.
Councilmember Smith?
No.
Councilmember Sackett?
No.
Councilmember Jackson?
No.
Vice President Abrahamson?
Not at this time, no.
President Kelly?
No. We got 8 no's, 1 yes. Motion has failed. We have reports. We just did that. That was new business. Does anybody else have any new business? No, that was old business. No, there was no old business on the agenda. I was going to bring it up as old business.
But you made it.
The mayor was bringing it up as new business. It just ironically, we had the same interest tonight on the...
So let's go to reports.
We're going to reports, please.
I have some new business.
Okay.
Before we go to reports. Thank you. I just was wondering about a couple of resolutions that were, we wanted to try to get on the agenda that we never had a chance to discuss at all. They were just pulled off without
Which resolution are you talking about, John?
I don't have any. I have, let's see here. I have a resolution to ratify and approve actions taken by the Township Council.
That's going on the 23rd?
At the council meeting.
That's going on the 23rd, yeah. I already informed the clerk of that. I also spoke to Mr. Palumbo about that. I think you relayed that to Mr. Jackson. I'm assuming that's between you and Mr. Palumbo.
Okay.
But that is going to be on the 23rd, and it is still within the 45-day time frame.
Okay, so 4/23.
So we have
that
10
one?
additional days after that, God forbid. We still work within the notice period as well. Okay. So that's being addressed with that.
On the 23rd.
On the 23rd of April.
I also have the resolution to increase the bid threshold for Rockaway Township.
We've already addressed and voted on that.
Voted on that once before.
And the next one is the contracts, right? Is that the other one you're talking about?
Professional services.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then one of those issues that are on there is subject to the litigation that we currently have right now in front of the courts in Nickowitz. What's the next resolution that you have?
19-07.
Which is?
Oh, hold on one second. I pulled off my phone here. I didn't have a copy, so I saved it. It was the ordinance to amending Chapter 2 Rules of Procedure, Meetings of the Council, subsection 2-5.2, regular meetings of the revised general ordinance of the Township of Rockaway. With the regular meetings, the council shall meet annually for organization first Tuesday of January at 7:30. The council shall meet regularly thereafter on the second and fourth Tuesdays of each month at 7:30. If a regular meeting falls on a legal holiday or such other day when the council determines that it would be inappropriate to hold a meeting.
That was something that Councilman Jeniak had brought up and then pulled.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it up. So.
Yes, Council President, please make the process ongoing vote that should state as a solely budget option.
Yeah, that was something that was.
I never, well, I'm bringing it back up, so I never heard him say it.
Well, I'm just giving the answer.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let me just finish this real quick. To hold a meeting of the council by resolution shall set the time and place of a regularly scheduled meeting. Except in emergency circumstance, all regular meetings of the council shall adjourn no later than 11 o'clock.
Is there any other new business? No?
Can I just ask the bid threshold so you can't bring it up again? Once it's voted on, it can't be brought up again?
Oh, no, but we did address it, that's on there. So, I mean, if we keep voting on it, no, I mean, when are we going to keep stopping them on it?
I never got a chance to vote on it. You guys did it like 2 in the morning when I went home. And I also have a couple letters from, I have some letters from some of our town employees asking us to re-vote on it. They're, you know, we're causing a lot of problems with them.
Did you send that over? I never received any of
that. You were emailed it, the one from one of our employees. I don't recommend. I don't want to say his name, but it was from the superintendent of utilities. So we had gotten a letter dated on March 26th, and you received it because it has the whole council on there. Rockaway Township Council members. Yeah, March 26th. So I'm not sure why we can't bring it up. We voted at 2 in the morning. I'd like to bring it up. I'd like to re-vote on it. You guys can definitely welcome to vote it down. That's your right. But I'd like to bring it up and vote on it again. So I'm making a motion to increase the bid threshold back to $40,000, and I would like a second.
I'll second it.
Council President.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman. We'll have discussion.
Since you're having discussion, I'd like to point out, since we changed the bid threshold previously, we haven't gotten any new resolutions related to any spending that would apparently be affected by that. Literally, there's been no change that we've seen at the council as a result of adjusting that bid threshold. I'm not sure what the concern is that Councilman Sackett has.
No, I just want to vote on this per the email I received from some employees. So if you want to vote it down, you can vote it down.
You said
employee, excuse me, employee.
I only got one.
Oh, I see one here, but yeah.
That's plural or singular?
He got two.
I see one here, but I've seen a couple of emails from our business administrator and a few other people that were complaining. So it's more than one.
Can you just provide me after this tonight that you can provide me those emails as well?
I think the administration could provide those emails.
You have them on your person.
Actually, I don't.
Okay.
Okay, so administration could provide that.
What was the date of that one you have?
I got March 26th. I have April 8th, March 22nd. I have a lot of emails. We all got them. I see emails. I see you guys on here.
322.
No, 326. Excuse me. 320. No, I looked at the wrong one. I apologize.
And there was one today.
No. I see one.
Or yesterday.
April 8th, March 26th. March 22nd was actually have to do with the one you said we discussed at the next meeting for the 2 meetings.
Okay.
So.
We had a second. I'm sorry. We had John. You made the motion, right?
Correct.
I second it.
Jackson.
The roll. Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Jednak?
No.
Councilmember Palumbo?
No.
Councilmember Smith?
No.
Councilmember Sackett?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Vice President Abrahamson?
No.
President Kelly?
No. We have 5 noes, 4 yeses. Motion fails. Any other new business?
No, that's it. Thank you for voting on it.
You're welcome. Reports? Mr. Kling goes first.
All right. Thank you. My report, the Easter Festival was attended greatly by everybody. The mayor, Councilman Sackett was there, Councilman Joe Jackson was there. Kids had a great time. There was a lot of great prizes. This is one of the greatest events for Rockaway. It's fun. They enjoyed watching the police car with the little dog in it and chasing that around. The baseball and softball parade is on the 13th, and I'll be there.
9 to 1, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Smith?
Just go down the road.
Okay.
Mrs. Smith?
No report.
Councilman Jeniak?
I just wanted to say congratulations to the 5th grade Rockaway Township Lady Rockets basketball team that we recognized earlier this evening. Thank you.
You're welcome. Council Vice President?
Yeah, I just want to say that unfortunately, the opening day parade, the opening day fishing event is the same day as the Easter event. I spent the morning from 6 a.m. till probably noon up in Hibernia Firehouse, opening day fishing. It was excellent. It was filled. The Ladies Auxiliary did an awesome job with cooking breakfast, and prize for every kid. The company one, that's not company one. Yeah, it is company one. Company one does an excellent job. Every child walks away with a fishing contest prize. My grandson caught a 12-inch trout, rainbow trout, and they were beautiful. It was a beautiful day, and it really felt good to be back in the area where I first landed when I came into Rockaway. It was like Old Homes day. It was really, really nice. And I know that something was happening down here too, at Mount Hope, and I know Boy Scout Camp had a big breakfast also. So everybody that puts that together for the kids, it's excellent, excellent. And I thank everybody that did it.
Mr. Palumbo?
None.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, 2 things. I was at the Easter Festival also. I want to thank the Boy Scouts who did a great job helping coordinate the Easter Bunny not getting overwhelmed by young children. And the Scoutmaster Kevin was there, and Sue Gabe from the Township did a great job running and coordinating the event. I think the kids had a great time. I also wanted to note Dave Dyer did a great job putting together the Government Workers Week event here today, and I know we had some people from the public come. They had some nice tables set up representing every department. All the department heads were here, and I thought it was a very nice event, and I wanted to thank Dave and Pat and the administration for putting that together with the department heads.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Sackett?
Couple of things. We had our citizen recreation meeting last Tuesday, April 2nd, and had a few people there from different programs talking about the fields and moving forward. So it was a real good meeting. I also was at the Easter Festival. Great job, like Joe said, by Sue Gabe and her team, and hopefully next year can definitely maybe make it even better, hopefully. If you're free this Thursday, April 11th, is the Stony Brook Talent Show. So I've got nothing to do, see a bunch of kids, kindergarten through 5th grade, $2 to get in, and my daughter will be in it. So if you got nothing to do, this Thursday night, 7 o'clock, Stony Brook Talent Show. I don't know. She's doing some type of act. That's why I want to give me a shirt before. I don't even know. I prefer to go in there not knowing what they're doing, like surprise. So that's this Thursday. Also, we have the baseball parade. I think it starts about 10 a.m. I think they line up at 9. Looking forward to that. Also, this Saturday is the start of the Rockaway Township soccer rec program. I have to coach at 11:30, so hopefully the baseball parade won't take forever. Next Friday, April 19th, is the start of Passover. So everyone who's celebrating, I want to wish you Chag Sameach. And also next Sunday, April 21st, is Easter. So wish you guys all a happy Easter as well. And next meeting, since it'll be during Passover, I won't have any chips. I'll have some matzah. Thank you.
Mr. Freelander?
Yes, two things. One, library meeting last month. They just started approval. They're going to go ahead with a quiet room, whether, you know, it's all separate from the regular actions within the building. And they started talking about Library Day. On a different note, if anybody went past the Hibernia branch, when it was closed, they had a major pipe break, and the bottom floor got wiped out. Really bad. Closed, well, it's obviously closed and in repair. The administration's working on it, and hopefully everything will get back to normal. Right? And on a second note, we had the Historical Society, was advertised through town, the program in this room. Council President Kelly was there, the mayor, myself. These people, Gene Licker, who's the president of the Historical Society, presented it, and if you like history, you'll learn something that day. And it was a great program. A lot of people showed up for it. I also was pleasantly surprised before it started. I was handed something, and I finished the meeting, the presentation that night, and I'd like to read it to the people in this room. It's a proclamation. The 11th Congressional District of the great state of New Jersey honors and congratulates Rockaway Township upon the occasion of its 175th anniversary. And whereas Rockaway Township was formed in 1844 and its service to the area began in 1715, and whereas Rockaway Township proudly preserves and celebrates its rich history with national historical sites, Split Rock, Furnace, and the Ford Fascia House. And whereas Rockaway Township today continues the centuries-old traditions of assisting the United States military by first forging supplies for the American Revolution to the current military research and development programs at Picatinny Arsenal. And be it known, the undersigned member of the United States Congress, the Honorable Mikey Sherrill of the 11th Congressional District of the State of New Jersey, hereby honors and congratulates Rockaway Township upon the occasion of its 175th anniversary. Signed by Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, April 1st, 2019. That's for the Historical Society. So we are known for some good things. That's it.
That's it. And then, Mr. Freelander, thanks for your dedication that you have to the Historical Society. I know you're heavily involved, and every time I do see them, you're always a part of that. That was there, so it was, yeah, all the way they do, and if everybody gets an opportunity to go to the Ford Fascia House from what they've been doing, and it's just, it is. And I was going to comment on that too for Historical Society that they had on the 1st of April. Actually, our 175th celebration is actually the 8th, which was yesterday.
And that's why I'm holding on to this, because we're going to be reading it all around town.
Yeah. So that was a very well attended, and I actually had come over some old memorabilia with regard to the church I have to give to the Historical Society. I have some of the graduating class from the 20s. That one of the properties that I had purchased had a lot of stuff that was in there, and I spoke to some of the organizers to provide that for them. So I'm going to assemble that as well. On the 6th, I also attended the fishing contest for opening day. They had one in Mount Hope. They also had it at Company 1. The Ladies Auxiliary do a phenomenal job. They had a breakfast there. It started at 6. They sold out of everything they had. The attendance of the kids, the prizes. My daughter was, who was 7, picked up a 17.5-inch trout and got herself a little prize. And they make sure everybody gets a prize no matter what. So the company and all the members there and the volunteers just do a great thing for the community there. And maybe next year we can get in the budget to give them a little bit of money they didn't get this time. For whatever reason, they were shy of some money for some of the trout that they stock in there. Also at Lake Telemark on the 7th, we had hosted a Easter egg hunt for all the kids. We had a little over 35 to 40 children that participated in that. We had on the beach as well as in a playground area having 2 styles of hunts for the kids. And then we had foods, treats, prizes, games that we had. And it went from 1 o'clock till about 4 o'clock over there. And again, Lake Telemark's community, it's not like White Meadow Lake. We don't have mandatory dues, but we do the best that we can within our means, and we're just trying to provide for our community and the children that's within there. The baseball parade, obviously Mr. Quinn had hit. I look forward to being there for that. I know, Mr. Dyer, you're going to look into that one concern with the graffiti, right?
Yep, Bobby Sheard's on it.
Great, so we can address that. That's over there. I did a walk around, and I know there were some comments before about our fields, but if you went there yesterday, the fields look great from how Recreation really put some time and going there. I know I can say Mr. Swanton's name, does a phenomenal job with a small crew and really puts out some great product there for those fields and what they're trying to do to keep them in great shape. The other thing that we have is, I'm sorry here. Thank everybody that participated in the budget process. I know, Mrs. Seeger, you were an assistant BA, you became acting BA, you became the BA, and you assembled everything that you had going on. You had your hearings that were there back in November. You assisted with getting backup documentation that we requested. Mrs. Palmieri, excellent job as well of what you did, and all of the department heads that assembled their budgets and provided with the information, answered questions, what they could or were allowed to answer. And then the cooperation of this council. I mean, it was a very collaborative meeting that we had in our last budget hearing. And, you know, there was a lot of recommendations and looks and focus on that. And I applaud all of you for doing that. I know it lasted very long, and I don't know why, because I even bet Mrs. Palmieri would be out in an hour and a half, and I would have lost the farm.
Yes, you would have.
On that, you know, we were here until 1 o'clock in the morning, and everybody had questions and interest and making some good recommendations for that. So I thank everybody for that. And then lastly would be, I want to wish everybody a happy and safe Passover and Easter, which will take place before our next council meeting. And if we can just talk to Mr. Gable, Mrs. Degman, that would be a wonderful, yeah, that would be great for him. And we have a couple of times to put some pressure on him to go there. So with that, that's all I have.
I just want to remind everybody that April is Autism Awareness Month. I did a proclamation that I put online, and I don't want us to forget, so that's why I'm mentioning it again today. We had a basketball game at KDM that I attended to raise money for autism. It was great. It was seeing all the teachers and the kids play basketball against each other, a lot of community spirit. I had a chance to, on Saturday, to attend the Mount Hope fishing contest with the Boy Scouts, Troop 165. I didn't expect this, but we got a treat from Picatinny. They brought some of their heavy armament out. One of the cannons was there. They didn't fire it off this year, so I was a little disappointed. They did last year. There were some concerns. People had to roll their windows down so they're on their automobiles, so from the shock wave, so the windows wouldn't break. So I think that's one of the reasons that they didn't fire it off this year. I also attended the Easter celebration at Copeland. Very nice. As everybody said, the kids had an excellent time. They always do, a lot of smiling faces. It was great. I just want to touch upon Rockaway Township Day. It's around the corner. We are still planning it. It's shaping up nicely. Pat Seeger had met with the company that's running it, so we're putting the pieces together. That is going to be on June 8th. Seems like it's going to be a wonderful event and that we're going to have wonderful participation from the community. And I want to wish everybody a happy Easter and happy Passover. Thank you.
Mrs. Seeger?
No comment, thank you.
Mrs. Palmieri?
No comment, thank you.
Mr. Dyer?
No comment, thank you.
Awesome. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All say aye.
Who was the second?
Patty was the second.